Hello and welcome if you're new. Welcome back if you're returning. In this video, we're going to be delving into the science of a controversial rodent accessory, the wheel. I'll be focusing primarily on Norway rats, but a lot of this will overlap with other rodent species like mice, hamsters, and roof rats. And keep in mind, our pets are individuals, and the science focuses on averages across groups. So don't take every fact as future sight for your rat. Just be aware of the facts, be observant of your pet, and make your best informed judgment. What the community thinks. Most of the community believes that rats naturally love to run, and that a properly sized wheel is healthy enrichment that can improve the lives of your rats. However, there's a vocal minority that's anti-wheel. Their concerns are that wheels exacerbate poor posture, that rats don't actually need them, and that rats can develop wheel tail, an accentuated curve to the tail from running. Wheel benefits. Wheels are rewarding. Across several studies published between 1993 and 2025, researchers found that rodents continuously chose to run on wheels when given the chance. In 1993, Iversen, a behavioral scientist, ran a study where individual rats in cages could press a lever to gain access to a running wheel. The only reward was the chance to run, and the rats chose to press the lever repeatedly. But those are captive rats. Maybe they only ran because they were bored and had nothing else to do. But in 2014, this question was answered. Researchers put running wheels outside in natural environments with no incentives. What they found was that wild mice used these wheels and even came back to use them again. Then, in 2025, Kanazawa University in Japan looked at what was happening in the brain during wheel running. The researchers found that wheel running activates the same reward system in the brain as other things rodents find rewarding. Wheel benefits. Brain development. There's evidence that wheel access matters more for young rats than adult ones. Not because adults don't benefit, but because the benefits stick around longer for juveniles. In 2011, Hopkins and colleagues at Dartmouth ran a study comparing two groups of rats. One group got 4 weeks of voluntary wheel access as adolescents. The other group got 4 weeks of wheel access as adults. Both groups were tested on object recognition memory. Basically, can they tell the difference between something they've seen before and something new? And both groups had their brains checked for BDNF, a protein involved in learning and memory. The adult rats improved on the memory test immediately after exercise, and their BDNF levels went up. But 2 weeks after the wheel was taken away, both the memory improvement and the BDNF increase were gone. The adolescent rats also improved and had higher BDNF levels, but when they were tested 4 weeks after exercise ended, the effects were still there. So, wheel access during development seems to produce lasting changes in the brain, while wheel access as an adult produces changes that fade when the exercise stops. If you're bringing home young rats and you want to give them the best long-term outcome, wheel access early in life may matter more than at any other point. Wheel benefits: physical and metabolic health. 3 studies point at 3 connected benefits: better body composition, preserved muscle strength into old age, and healthier spinal discs. In 2015, Garvey and colleagues gave middle-aged rats voluntary wheel access for 8 weeks. These rats ran an average of 83 meters per day, roughly the length of a football field. The running rats gained 84% less body weight than the sedentary rats. Their leg muscles showed markers of improved energy metabolism, and metabolic testing showed reduced fat storage in the muscles doing the running. In 2021, Takada and colleagues did a longer study. they gave rats voluntary wheel access from 5 weeks old to 18 months old, most of their life. The wheel-running rats kept significantly better grip strength and better muscle quality than the sedentary controls. This was in a diabetic rat strain, so it's not a perfect model for a healthy pet rat, but this is clear evidence that lifelong wheel access protects muscle function in old age. In 2015, Luan and colleagues took rats with chemically induced disc damage, gave one group daily running exercise on a treadmill, and left the other group sedentary. The exercised rats had less pain, and tissue analysis showed the running had partially restored the damaged discs. Though not specifically tested for, leaner rats, stronger muscles, and healthier discs are 3 biological factors underlying hind leg degeneration. HLD is a condition where older rats gradually lose control of their back legs. Nobody has directly tested whether wheel access prevents HLD in pet rats. The study does not exist, but every mechanism related to HLD points in the same direction. If you're worried about HLD in your rats, wheel access is a reasonable bet based on underlying biology. Wheel benefits. Increased longevity. Rats with access to a wheel tend to live longer on average than rats without one. The effect is real but modest, around 9%. In 1985, Halazi and colleagues gave male rats voluntary wheel access for their entire lives and compared them to sedentary rats. The wheel-running rats lived an average of 1,012 days. The sedentary rats lived 923 days. That's roughly a 10% increase in average lifespan. Halazi repeated similar studies over decades and kept finding similar results. One important thing to note, wheel access improved the average lifespan, not maximum lifespan. For context, dietary restriction, feeding rats less than they'd freely eat, extends both average and maximum lifespan, sometimes by 14 to 45%. Wheel risks. Injury. In 2018, Walker and Mason compared 2 wheel designs in mice, solid plastic floors and wire mesh floors. The mice preferred solid floors, and the mesh floors caused more injuries. Toes and tails can catch in the gaps of a mesh or rod floor wheel. If you are going to buy a wheel, buy one with a solid running surface. Skip anything with mesh, rungs, or rod flooring to avoid risk of serious injury to your pet. Wheel risks. ABA, activity-based anorexia. There's a phenomenon called activity-based anorexia. When rats have wheel access and are put on any kind of food restriction, they run more, eat less, and can lose dangerous amounts of weight. This has been documented across multiple studies going back decades. One such study used rats to learn more about brain changes in humans with ABA. For pet rats fed freely, this isn't a concern. But if a rat gets sick or stops eating, or if you're doing any kind of feeding schedule with gaps, a wheel can accelerate weight loss quickly. The guideline is straightforward. Food should be constantly available whenever a wheel is in the cage. Wheel risks. Withdrawal and dependence. In 2009, Kennerek and colleagues gave rats long-term wheel access, then removed it, and gave the rats a drug called naloxone. Naloxone is a medication used to reverse opioid overdose in people, and it also brings hidden withdrawal symptoms to the surface. The wheel-running rat showed classic withdrawal signs: teeth chattering, wet dog shakes, and other physical symptoms, similar to that in which you would see in an animal coming off of opioids. As such, chronic wheel use creates something like a mild dependence. Suddenly removing the wheel from a rat that's been using it heavily can cause real distress. If you need to take the wheel out, Taper access down over a few days instead of pulling it away all at once. And remember, not all rats are the same. Not all rats are going to get addicted to using the wheel. Some rats never use the wheel, like mentioned in the community post. But it's something you should definitely keep an eye on and moderate if your rat seems like they're developing a dependency. Wheel risks, genetics, and compulsive behavior. In 2017, Leduc and colleagues introduced wheels into a lab mouse colony as environmental enrichment. In one specific inbred strain called FVB129-HEMC, a subset of male mice developed permanent stereotypic circling that started at 2 to 3 months of age. Once it started, it did not stop. Even when the wheels were removed, the circling mice had significantly lower dopamine, noradrenaline, and serotonin in their brains compared to genetically identical mice weaned without wheels. If your rats perform compulsive behaviors, repetitive patterns like circling, or have anxiety, reduce wheel access until you can remove it completely. Though this is probably not common, wheel access may exacerbate the symptoms. Wheel risks. Wheel tail. Wheel tail is a term from the rat community describing a curled over tail that some rats develop. There's no peer-reviewed research on the topic, and the community itself is split on what causes it. Some argue it's a learned running posture that fades when the wheel is removed. Others argue it's genetic. Some rat lines are born with curled tails. Nobody has produced hard evidence either way. There's no scientific answer, at best anecdotal observations. In my own opinion, it is likely genetic as there is already mutant strains of curly-tailed mice, and they pass this on genetically. Which brings me back to what I said at the beginning. Rats are individuals. Everything in this video is based on averages across groups of rats and other rodents in controlled studies. Your rats are not averages. Watch them, know their behavior, and make adjustments where necessary. Community guidelines, what to look for, cost, and DIY. If you decide a wheel is right for your rats, here's what the community and the research agree on. What to look for. A solid running surface, no rungs, no mesh, no rod flooring. A large diameter. Community consensus lands at 12 inches minimum, though I'll say more about sizing in my take. Secure mounting so it doesn't wobble, tip, or slide around during use. Think of a wheel as an addition to an enriched cage, not a substitution for one. A great wheel doesn't replace climbing, digging, foraging, and social space. As far as cost goes, the budget wheels are somewhere around $30 to $50. Mid-range, expect to pay $50 to about $70, and for the higher end wheels that are typically more appropriate, expect to spend at least $100. Due to limited options on the larger side, some build larger diameter running surfaces using a Lazy Susan turntable and a few bolts. My opinion. After gathering all of the research and going through it, I believe that the positives outweigh the negatives. If you have an adult rat that you don't know yet, one from a pet store, or maybe an unknown background, skip the wheel until you know more about them personally. A wheel might never be a good idea for that particular rat. But, in general, wheels given to young and old alike find varying benefits, from cognitive plasticity in juveniles to weight management and muscle preservation in adults. Some in the community say a 12-inch diameter is acceptable. From my experience, 12 inches is only acceptable for very young rats, or if you have very small female rats. I'm a massage therapist by trade, not a doctor, but I have seen what repetitive stress from being in an improper position for long periods of time can do to the body. The wheel needs to be big enough that the rat's back isn't arched inversely while running. For adult rats, that means going bigger than 12 inches. My personal minimum is 15. The parts of the rat community who are anti-wheel aren't wrong to be cautious. But when I look at what the actual research shows, rats will work for wheel access. Wild rodents choose to use them. Young rats get lasting brain benefits. Adult rats gain real metabolic and muscle benefits. And lifelong wheel use even nudges lifespan up a bit. The case for a well-designed wheel is stronger than the case against it. So that's it. That is where the evidence currently stands. For most rats, wheels are rewarding behavior. It supports brain development, helps preserve muscle and metabolism, nudges lifespan a bit, and the main risk is picking the right type of wheel, not the wheel itself. If you found this video helpful or interesting, please hit the like button and subscribe for more evidence-based rat care content. The full source list is in the description if you want to read the studies yourself, and I do suggest that you do. And I would love to hear from you in the comments. Do you offer your rats a wheel?